Alright, okay, so this is me just putting away some tools. I'm just pulling out the 3 bevelers that I use when I'm tooling. So I have a large, a medium and a small. And you can see I've got my pattern all tooled out there in the previous video. I'm going to wet it, a bit of water. People ask how much water do you put on. Not too much is the answer. You kind of just got to work it out with experience. Oops. Okay, so this is my Craft Tool Pro Maul. If you're starting out, get something a little bit smaller than that. However, the weight is great. It's really useful. Now, I like to use my largest beveler on long straight edges, so like around the border, like on here, or particularly long lines in a pattern. So I apologise as well for the jumpiness of the camera. I didn't realise it was going to do that. So I'm just going to be quiet for a bit and I'll jump back in when there's something worth saying. One of the things you can't see in this video, because I framed it badly, is the maul itself. I'm choked right up on the maul, so I'm holding the head and I'm just rocking it in my wrist. So it's all wrist action, it's not my arm, I'm not hitting it that hard. I'm just letting the weight of the maul do the work. But as you'll see in a minute, it gets quite heavy. It feels quite weighty in your arm, so that's why I say a slightly lighter hammer would be better for longer projects like this. This particular maul is the tapered maul, which I love. For some reason it means you hit more accurately every time. I can't explain the science, but it just works a dream. Yep, there's me coming back down the inside of this line. I did carve this freehand, so it's not the straightest line, but it's pretty close. It's good enough for what we're doing here. And you can already start to see the shading happening around that border. So what we're aiming for with this part of the project is we're trying to make it look 3D. So we're taking what we've carved with the knife and we're giving it an actual 3D appearance. So rather than trying to raise it, we're going to flatten down some bits. So the beveler that I'm using here, it has a flat face and an angled face. So we put the flat face in the cut. We put it in the cut, and the beveled face is going to squish down one side, making the other side look raised. So I've got the flat face up against the border there, and the beveled face leaning in towards the patterned area. And there it is, kicking in. Too heavy. I did some tooling yesterday and it's catching up on me. Okay, so here's my 3 again. Now for the pattern in the middle, I'm going to switch to the medium beveler. I'm going to start on this flower. Now with this pattern, I've worked this pattern a few times before, so I'm quite comfortable with how it looks. but it's worth spending some time just looking at your pattern, looking at the picture that you're going to be tooling, and try and get to grips of which bits sit in front of other bits, so which petals sit forward of the other petals. If you put the bevel on the wrong side, it can look wrong, but it's not always obvious why it's wrong. So if you spend that little bit extra time planning out your approach, planning out your which way you're going to go, and move logically through the pattern, and you'll get a much more consistent and a much more realistic result. So here I'm just going around the edges of the petal, and I'm just doing like single hits in those wavy parts, and then I'm kind of joining them up. After that, you can already see the flower kind of come to life with just a couple of hits with the tool. So we're going to work all the way through the pattern with our bevelers, and then in the next video we'll go through and add some more detail. Now here I've just switched to my smallest beveler, so I'm just going to get in and do the detail bits around the edge. It also gives a really nice crisp finish, this little one. So if there's any small areas to get in, or rounded parts, or parts that particularly want to look shaded or deep, this is a really useful tool for that. Those of you joining partway through, this is going to be an axe handle protector, so up around the handle of the axe. So there's two of these pieces, and we're going to stitch them, and wrap them around and stitch them either side. So if you watch through to the end of the series, you'll see the finished product. Yeah. So here I've just chosen a couple of the leaf lines to work on, and I'll do a few that are all beveled on the same edge, and I'll do a number of them at the same time, so only turning my workpiece as minimally as possible. I'll spin it, do the same, pick a few that are beveled the same way, work on those, and then gradually work my way through. Now here you can see that larger leaf there that I'm working on. I've chosen that to be in the foreground, and the two leaves next to it are going to be in the background, so that's determined the angle of the bevel around that particular leaf. Again here, see that weight is just to hold the piece still, because they do wander quite a bit if you're not careful. The technique when you're beveling, I was taught anyway, is to almost let the tool float in the cut. If you press it down all the way along, you get a really inconsistent and quite a messy looking stamp. But if you kind of let your little finger act as kind of like suspension, so it bounces along the line, you get a much more professional looking finish. I'm by no means a pro, I don't do this very often, but the times I have done it, I've definitely improved just by applying a few of those little techniques. Again, you can see when I'm holding the actual tool, I have my fingers right up the length of the shaft there. This gives us a really nice support. If you try and hold it all down at the tip, the tool's going to wander around and you're not going to be very accurate when you're hitting the top of it. So if you brace it between all 4 fingers, you get a much more accurate tooling, whatever the word is. Plus you can also rotate it just with your thumb, just by rolling it between your thumb and your middle finger. So you can go around corners quite nicely. But again, it takes practice. Now here with the vein on this leaf, I'm doing a couple of different actions there. I'm going straight down and then I'm leaning the tool back so I get a shallower bevel coming out of the vein onto the leaf. So, and then when I spin it round, now I keep it upright so I get a much steeper bevel on the back side of the vein. So just to try and help give that 3D look. Again, single hits in the wavy bits around the leaf. So that face is slightly contoured, so using that contour to your advantage, so you're not trying to get round radiuses that you don't need to try too hard on. Again, pick a line and choose which is going to be in the front. Just work the other lines that are in similar plane. I've done this pattern countless times before, but every time it comes out slightly different. Every time when you're doing it, you make slightly different decisions or different nuanced pattern changes, which is nice. It makes it unique every time you do it, even though it is a standardised pattern. These patterns you can buy from Tandy. I'm sure other places do them. It's called a craft aid, I think they call it. It's basically a sheet of plastic with this pattern embossed on the bottom, so it's see-through, so you can see where you're lining up against. And then because it's embossed, you wet your leather and you rub it, and it just leaves a very faint imprint on the leather of where you need to carve. And you go ahead, you follow that with your knife, and then you get to this stage where you start tooling. So it makes it a really straightforward way of getting a professional looking pattern. So here we are at the end. A quick flyby showing you the difference between top and bottom. Looking pretty good so far. So if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out on the website, bentleyleathercraft.com, or on Instagram @bentleyleathercraft. Hope to see you on the next video. Thanks.